Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all in all new Seen and Heard live show.
Hello, hello, everyone. I hope we are live. Please say hi to us just to confirm that we are streaming. We are with you today with a special guest, Jelena Kalinić, who will introduce herself to you.
Thank you, Edita. Thank you, Darko, for inviting me for this session. My name is a biologist, also holding a MA in comparative literature, theater, and film, which is an interesting combination of STEM and arts. And I'm a science communicator and science journalist, founder of website Science Speaks, podcast Science. All in all, I speak about science.
And the science will be topic of today. And if you can explain all from the start, we all have these different opinions on the internet all around us. And why is science visibility so important to create an informed decision?
I think that I heard the question, the importance of science visibility. Why does it matter to
Yes.
society? I had certain problems, but I think that was the question. So yeah, right now we are living in the time of global crisis. I mean, in my opinion, we are always in certain kind of a global crisis of Second World War and everything that happened after that. But right now, the situation is immense. And from pandemic to climate change, society is right now aware of science and science literacy. But I don't think it began with pandemics. We who are in this job, writing about science, communicating science, we notice that decades. I mean, I'm working this for 1 decade, let's say, but consulting the people from USA who were working on science communication and writing about science for decades, they noticed certain trends that science is not visible, and we are like, that was actually what Carl Sagan said. I would paraphrase him, like he said that we are living in a society that is basically built upon science and technology, yet people don't understand how does it work. So when you have this kind of a disproportion in understanding of science and technology, and being so dependent on science and technology, then you have a problem. And also we have a lot of movements, let's say, in society that are against science. And it's not only anti-vax, climate change deniers, it's much more. We have like conservative trends, very religious trends. It's some kind of a like desecularization of
Let's
science
not forget the flat Earth
globally.
theory.
I'm not speaking only about. Oh yeah, but that's really like
That's completely
anti-science, and
extreme.
it always existed. But the problem is also in experts in from science field, because when they see such silly things like flat earthers, vaccines don't work, they just say it's silly. They do not fight against that because they don't think it's necessary. Usually experts, if we just, most of the experts don't communicate science, and that's okay, because not all of them have enough time to communicate. It's really time consuming. But let's say that they maybe should do certain efforts in their like micro environments. So why science visibility like empowers individuals? I'll give you one example. pH value. Who remembers pH value from primary school and from high school? And who is able, you have some, yeah, you have, if you don't know exactly, you have like, at least you have a word in your mind. But why it is important for a grown-up person to know what pH value is? Because pH value has the certain kind of a measure is something acidic or alkaline, has its own range from 0 to 14. And then you see on the internet certain advices like alkalize yourself, take the, I don't know, avocado, and avocado has a pH value of 23. If you are a scientifically literate person, then you will know that they are lying to you. And there is no amount of avocado that can alkalize you, and there is no pH value of 23. So that actually, I would go back to Carl Sagan. I think that he said something like, if you get bamboozled for a long time, you will become basically stupid. But we were being bamboozled, I think that was the word, for decades in very high-tech societies. I'm not speaking about like third world countries. I'm speaking about very high-tech societies. And to survive and to not to be a victim of these kinds of charlatans, we need science literacy and science communication.
Okay, I think it was probably bamboozled, so tricked in different
Bamboozled,
ways.
yeah. I haven't checked. Bamboozled.
I was just thinking, why would you want to be alkaline? But we shouldn't go into details.
They say that cancers grow in the acidic environment. So in order not to get cancer, but it's not true because it doesn't depend on the. But they say like in acidic environment. What you need to know is actually that, and your lungs are the organs that can actually they manage pH value. And in certain parts of our body, like in our stomach, we need acid pH value. So you cannot be alkalized there, or otherwise you will die.
Okay.
Unless you have morning acidic problems after a late night. So
Yeah.
then you need to alkalize yourself a bit.
Then you take certain medicines, or even like something else. Okay. Go on.
I think we've all encountered different kinds of things online that, as you say, they might sound silly. You might dismiss them. You might go, "This is not even worth my time." And I would guess that most scientists have this instinct. They might even have a trauma response, like, "Get that away from me. I don't want to engage. I don't want to talk to these people." So, what would be your advice for educators, scientists, anyone who maybe could contribute to better information out there? How would you motivate them to even engage this kind of information?
Primary schools, maybe even kindergartens. Because the reason why I'm saying that, I got 5 or 6 years old, and that's the actual age when you get you cannot fall in love with science in like when you are in 20s. I mean, you can, and there are like examples of young people who were like, okay, we will play games and things like that, and then they decide, okay, I would like to go to STEM field, which is very good. But to catch the kids there, I mean, when I say catch the kids, I don't necessarily mean them to study STEM field, but just to understand basic principles, certain how does science works and phenomena around them. So that's the age. So it's the age even before when they get to primary schools. But then in primary schools, at least in Balkans, in ex-Yugoslavia, but I think in lots of other countries, except Scandinavia, UK, I still teach some the text, not really understanding how important. So children are just like repeating things. And I think that in lots of schools, there is no, they're not equipped very well to show kids experiments, to do something with their hands. I mean, I was visiting here in Bosnia schools where kids in high school, never did any experiment from chemistry or biology or something. I will not even mention physics, which is really like. And the second thing that we forget that even if you're an adult person, you can still learn. And I think that in this region and overall in the world, people stop trying to influence adult science. Just think that it's not interesting, except for the charlatans. They have their Instagram channels with like 100,000 followers. And I know people who are like, for example, psychologists. Recently, I saw this example, psychologist, which is fine. I respect that field. But he's recommending people how to lose weight and supplementing people with vitamins and minerals. Isn't that strange? I mean, if you're a psychologist, then you can help people in other ways. Treat anxiety, whatever, be a coach. But to get into nutrition field of supplements and losing weight as a psychologist, that's kind of odd. I mean, I'm sometimes getting out of my expertise because I'm a biologist, and sometimes I'm talking about physics because I have to cover general science. But then I ask someone who knows better, like, okay, explain this to me, or I just see something, some article or some explanation that is really good for me, works for me, and then I translate it without oversimplifying it. But I'm not trying to talk about, I don't know, let's say I'm trying to find something that I'm really like about law. I'm not specialist in law, and I'm not speaking about law. I'm not getting there.
Could this be a part of a problem? Because, as you say, pseudoscientists just tend to know everything about everything, and scientists actually get their own field, and even if they know much more than the general public about something else, they just tend to, I don't know about this, I'm not going to even talk about it, and just talk about a very narrow field of what their expertise is.
Dunning-Kruger. Yes, not all of them, but a lot of them are like specific. I have to and that makes
internet is a bit slow at you, Jelena. Can you hear us? Oh, we lost her.
We lost her for a moment.
What is your experience with this, Anita?
Yeah, I think it's true not just for science, but for other fields as well. People who know a lot tend to realize how much they don't know. so,
Do
so the
you
people who
see
don't take the space.
do you see people talking about perhaps English grammar that don't know that much about it, and English
Grammar,
teachers just
grammar is not that popular, or
it's not popular, right? Okay, literature, perhaps, I don't know.
literature, English in general, like English learning, for example. They will tell you, try to sell you cheap tricks for sure. Are you back with us?
Yeah, I'm back, and I haven't done anything. Like, I don't know what's happening, but I
Internet.
was
Yeah, we
listening to you
lost
all
you.
the time.
Your internet seemed to have been very bad. So, uh, if you could just repeat the whole answer or start somewhere.
What
If you
was the
remember
last thing
about
that you heard? A science
We
is
didn't
not
hear
not
anything
much, not
from
much.
the answer.
okay. So yeah, there is a phenomenon of Dunning-Kruger syndrome between scientists and the general public. So scientists are usually very humble when they speak, even when you ask scientists their own field, like specific narrow field, they will say like, yeah, I have to check science papers, literature, and then I will give you the answer. But when you're speaking to charlatans, they know everything about everything, and they're so like self-confident, and they really do these kinds of they know how to attract people, how to speak with a like lower voice, like a little bit deeper voice, to sound confident, because they were exercising that, while scientists usually don't have a time for that. And when we are speaking, for me it's very hard to say something and explain something live on camera, because I need references. And it goes for all the scientists. We need references, our like peer reviewed science papers, and to see, okay, this reference says this is this, or meta study that says this, while those who are overconfident charlatans, they don't need that. And for the general public, we like not that much confident, and it's hard to follow us. And people like people who talk. People do not like to read. But if you're reading, if I'm writing the article, then I can put the references, then I can put the hyperlinks as arguments for what I'm saying. In these kinds of, I love this form. I love podcasts, but in podcasts you cannot simply put the reference argument from some other paper, from some other article, as to prove your point. But for charlatan, then it's easier.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that it's really that important to be 100% with the proof that you are right. Perhaps it's just okay to say, okay, I'm not maybe 100% sure. I will look at it later, but I think it is this and this way, and just
Mhm.
perhaps just correct yourself later. So it's much less of a pressure.
Yeah,
I need to be 100% sure for everything.
I corrected myself so many times, and I don't feel like, okay, someone will not trust me. I feel more confident when I'm correcting myself. But it's up to other people to judge, do we sound confident and do we sound like we know something? And that's the main point with science. What we had in pandemics, science is in the same time, uh, it has certain dogmas, like, okay, it is proved that climate change is caused by anthropogenic factors by humans, and it's proved. Uh, and that vaccines bring more benefit than harm. And these are the truths. But there, in certain things, in many other things, science is not settled. And that's what makes people confused. Like when they said, oh, wear masks, do not wear masks and gloves. That we were wearing in the first months of pandemic, we were wearing gloves. And does the mask work, or does it not work? For whom it works? Does it work only for people who are infected, not to spread? Or does it work even for the people who are like healthy? And then they said, which is true, that we are not 100% who is sure who is infected, who is not. So it's better to wear, when in public, wear masks. But then these kinds of things, when science changes, it destroys trust in science and in institutions among like ordinary laymen. And what we do not learn in schools is how science works, scientific methodology, and how people actually make things, how science gets to some problem, and then that science can change its, let's say, opinion on certain phenomena when a new arguments and new proofs are discovered. And if it happens very quickly, like in pandemics, then general public is confused, and then they say, you are lying to us. And that's the problem.
People want certainty and simplicity, especially in times of crisis. And I would say there's a problem of mediation as well, because there's science on the one hand, but then there are journalists and politicians and others using science to get their messages across, whatever they are. And they might be doing it in clumsy ways, they might be doing it in malicious ways, they might be doing it in overly simplified ways. And people are overwhelmed. There's a lot of information out there from different sources, some that even seem legitimate and might normally be accepted, but people started collaborating with somebody who has malicious intent, for example. So what would you advise the general audience? How can they find their way? And how can they recognize when something might be suspicious?
Oh, the red flags. I was thinking about this a lot, and I was thinking so much that I even had an energy to write an article about that, because it's so complex. Whatever you say, you can find an example that is against that, but mostly, yeah, there are certain points. Well, I would say like extraordinary claims without peer-reviewed evidence, but for layman, it doesn't mean too much. So I will have to translate this in something that is like more digestible. If someone is like saying to you that this substance, whatever it is, this drug, tablet, whatever, is cure all cancer, that's a no extraordinary claim. So everything that sounds like too good, that's you should be suspicious about that. Then all natural. Right now we are seeing like a big boom of wellness industry, and it's always like against pharmacomafia, like normal pharmaceutical companies, that they are making money. But the amount of the money in the wellness industry is bigger than even in pharmaceuticals. So wellness industry is a big trigger of the misinformation, and it's usually based on organic, on all natural products. But if something is all natural, comes from nature, it doesn't necessarily mean it's like harmless. Like we have these very poisonous mushrooms. We have bears. Yeah, we have bears in nature. I don't think that they are very like
all natural cuddly animals.
Yeah, natural cuddly animals. So there are certain remedies. For example, I would mention black salve, and I would mention a Netflix TV show called apple cider vinegar. If you haven't watched that, please, a lot. It shows a lot of examples of these kinds of extraordinary advices. Black salve was, and there is like advice to put it on your, if someone has a wound, to put it on breast. But the thing is that mixture from that plant is basically destroying the tissue, whole like skin, muscle, and then people who were treated with that are left with very bad lesions uncurable ones, and it was really countries. Fortunately, it's not in our region of the world, but I wonder, there is like turmeric, and everyone is speaking about turmeric. Everyone is say turmeric golden latte, whatever. Okay, turmeric is not, like, it won't do any harm, kind of a amount, but for women, I recommend it to remedy. But the problem is turmeric, especially in combination with pepper, basically what it doesn't allow your chemotherapy to get into cells. So it's really making your chemotherapy less efficient. And there are lots of examples of these kinds of things. And the saddest thing about these kinds of things is that people who are really ill, have certain kind of a cancer, usually they are convinced to take these kinds of remedies, but they refuse real therapy like chemo, radiation. I know I understand that chemo is very nasty therapy. It's not pleasant. You will vomit. You will be in pain, but it can destroy cancer cells. But then, if they are taking these remedies, they do not go to their real therapy, they refuse it, then they will take therapy when it's too late, when the therapy, chemo, radiation, operation are inefficient. And that's how they die, unfortunately. I'm trying to get the some more of these red flags, like attack on scientific consensus, about consensus on climate change, anecdotal evidence, yes, those kinds of stories that are really like nicely said, but not real evidence from science papers, but like a friend of mine was cured with this, my uncle was, I had this experience. If they're using personal experiences, personal experience is the lowest level of evidence. Please do not use evidence and these kinds of very emotional, but let's just forget these kinds of things. A commercial, yeah, they will usually sell something to you. I mean, even the like real medicine and pharmacy will sell, but this is kind of a strange, because try to sell you a different dietary programs, different supplementary programs. They pull you into that circle more and more without true expertise or very shady expertise.
So we have this was proven by my uncle. It cures everything on the planet. It costs your house and your garden. And is there anything else I've skipped?
Yeah,
And scientists want to hide this from you. Maybe that's the one I see a lot. Your doctor will be angry because I've posted this online.
They do not want to tell you this, and similar.
This is a well-guarded secret that only everyone on Facebook can see.
Yeah, it could be that. Yeah, I would say these are interesting to see as red flags, and they actually go more into the field of, like you, Jelena, said, charlatans who are having really great soft skills with people, talking stories that touch people, their emotions, and scientists tend to get all cold data, and people just switch off to that. Could it be possible to package it a bit better by scientists to be more attractive to be approved by other people.
Have we lost
Yes,
you?
we can hear you, Jelena.
We can
Okay.
hear you. We can see you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I see in the
Did you hear my
that
question?
somehow I was like frozen.
Yeah,
for
it
a few
seemed to be the
minutes.
internet is fluctuating.
Something, and I was like trying to type. Okay, just repeat me your last question, Darko. Oh, and dog is there.
Yeah, he wants to tell his question.
And
What I wanted to ask you is if scientists could also package it more with emotions to let people just take this information better than just pure data, which just switches them off. And okay, this is too much for me. It's too much information. I don't want to really think about it, and that's it.
sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Right now, we are trying to communicate about the vaccines with these kinds of emotional content, like protection is love, giving vaccines love, protect those whom you care. You saw those kinds of messages probably, and using these kinds of language. But sometimes you really have to be like evidence-based, or if you're very talented, I'm not talented for that, to use humor. We need some kind of a sassiness, funky kind of science communicators. There are some of us, them, who can do it doesn't matter if they're using humor, even stand-up comedy. I have a friend who is stand-up science comedian. Then I know that there is a Leary, one influencer who finished. I think she had a degree, PhD from Stanford. She's a great one, very sexy, sassy one. I'm also trying to be like the beautiful science, but there's also there's a lot of misogyny and counter misogyny in that field. How female science is supposed to look like. But we won't open that theme. But there are certain ways, and what you can do, what I'm doing, is also to bring the same content on a different levels. Like I bring it on the level of, I think, in a really like points, nice illustrations, scrolling. Something that can put, and then I do the same content on a really like high level when you have to read 15 to 20 minutes levels. You know, those kinds of competitions, they were for scientists. Like explain this to a like 7-year-old, I don't know, student, and I don't know, expert. And that's a good exercise. And we need to put more into science communication, especially why I'm doing and how I'm doing this is because I have a collaboration with the people who are communication experts. It's not only up to me. I was trained. People were working with me with a really how to be asked, what to say, what not to say, because I was the one who was really harsh against the people who do not understand science, who are anti-vax, for example. And I was like mocking them or doing really like, I will troll them. If they are trolling me, communication expert, that's Dobrila Morčević, that are working with me in producing the content. She told me that just don't engage with troll, be mean. It's easy. It's very easy to be mean. You don't have to put actually a lot of energy to be mean, but to be, then I'm still working on that, I would say. Sometimes I am mean to certain people, but I'm
I
trying
didn't
to
hear
be more
anything
kind.
mean, so you're still very kind.
And scientists and science communicators have to learn these techniques of producing the content, how to make their content more palatable, let's say. You usually don't learn it. You don't have time to learn them on while you're studying science. So this kind of approach, when we have the communication experts, experts in production of content, and the science experts, science communication experts, that's how it works. It needs to be professional, really. And it costs, I would say.
And you need to get educators to do their job properly, I would say, as an educator as well.
Yeah. But then we come to another problem, and that's, I lost Darko.
He's coming
That's
back.
the problem of government. Because if you need to, then you will need this kind of access, collaboration between government, which, I mean, we can all do the extracurricular education in a certain way, but to really put government. And then we come to the question, when governments are not interested, are corrupted, are led by usually the side of the political spectrum they are in, like those who are in the government, not the opposition. In science, sometimes they are the ones who are against science, and that's what we can see in some. But there is also the problem of the countries, like in Bosnia, they want to. So what they are doing is that they are giving really small grants, and you can do nothing with that. Organizations, schools, or instead of concentrating on a few projects that can work. But that's how they keep the peace. Let's give this a little bit of money. Let's give them a little bit of money to keep them quiet. And we see that all the time. So the thing is that people usually don't understand how science education, education overall, and politics are intertwined. Like they are, usually people think that like science is something that is out of politics, but it's not. It has to be, science is usually, I mean, almost always financed by the governmental grants. Is it a EU grant, some Horizon or whatever, NIH fundings in USA, but it is dependent on a government system.
I think that's part of the problem with trust then, because people see these things as being.
They know that science is institutional, and that then science is in dependent of government. And if they don't trust government, they will not trust science. And science, basically, scientists, they don't have anyone else to look for money. they need to rely on governments, or in certain cases on philanthropics, like MIT has these kinds of sponsorships. But you have to be very careful with that, because George Church from MIT, who is like one of the leading geneticists in the US, in the world, he is the one who is trying to revive the woolly mammoth, like revive, to make a mammoth out of the elephant. But once he got the money, gift, huge one, from Jeffrey Epstein, and he claimed like I don't know who that guy was, I just took the money. Okay, but
Okay. You both froze for me for a second. Are we
Oh,
back? We're
so
back.
you can just
Are we back?
lead the show.
Yeah, we're here. Well, this whole time I've been
Uh,
we're
yeah,
back.
you're back.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
The whole time of the show, I've been sharing some links that
Mhm.
say "Nauka govori." So this could be a nice moment for you to tell us what is this? Why have I been sharing this? How is this connected to you? And what's the idea there?
So now Kagori is now Kagori. How I said it really like like foreign people trying to speak Serbo-Croatian, Montenegrin. Now Kagori or Science Speaks is a website which is founded basically by me, and it began its story as a blog on Google, Quantum of Science. But then I founded a non-governmental organization um, called Society, Science, and the World, which is basically the law frame for all my actions. So, with the money found from funds from the certain donors, I actually what we did with the prime communication with my friends from the communication field is that we from this Google blog Quantum of Science, we made a really nice website and reshaped it into Science Speaks. So it was a process of basically changing whole look. How do we call that when you change rebranding? So we rebranded Quantum of Science into Science Speaks. But before Science Speaks began its life, or Quantum of Science in its new life, I founded also Vaccines.ba, which is a site dedicated to vaccine science, explaining certain questions about vaccines to common people, especially parents. So both two sites, Science Speaks, Nauka govori, Vaccines.ba, are under Society, Science, and the World. Nauka i svijet. And in these times, you are nothing and no one if you don't have social media channels. So the Science Speaks website went on Instagram, and before, as it was a Quantum of Science, it already had a Facebook page. But right now we see that a lot of younger followers are on Instagram, and we are also trying, of course, TikTok. And then we in 2023 we began with the podcast Science Speaks. So it's like all one project. One about vaccines and general science. So we are trying to use as much as possible power of social media to convey, to spread love about science and science information, fighting against science, health, and tech disinformation, and raising awareness of the science importance of science literacy, and the how we should think critically about things and phenomena.
So you've been working on this for several years, and what are your experiences until now? How do people react to the websites and social media? Do they accept more the scientific facts now that it's existent and it's more available to it to them?
Well,
Well,
well, we still have haters, especially when we talk about vaccines. But for the general science, it's like people are showing interest. And I already know kids who got involved in science because of the content we produced. And that's something that I'm living for that. So if you have just one kid to catch the science, then my job is like, oh my life is worth living. It was always hard to accept science because it has its language. It's harder, but you always had kids who would love to see something about that and know something about it. And we know much more adults who are like following it and maybe commenting, or they're just silent, but they're following it. And right now, I'm so happy that we finally got this like milestone of 10K, 10,000 followers of Instagram. It was really like hard job to do if you're not paying for the followers. And we really wanted like organic followers, not someone from Bangladesh who is not really there and who is not reading the content, but really live. And that's the thing that usually influencers are making mistake. They want really to boom really quickly, and they pay for followers, and then they get nothing because the followers are not from the specific region they are. Or I see always these kinds of influencers that are constantly selling something, because you have these channels that every single content is I was trying this, I bought this. You cannot work with that. You really have to have a genuine content. So it's not only about science, I'm speaking of overall content on the internet. But the thing is, bad thing that we have, every time we post something about the situation of women in science, misogyny, anything that tackles political issues of science and society, science and democracy, we are not able to, we have really low reach, and it's not allowed to boost that content. You cannot pay like a few bucks to get a little bit more reach for them, because Meta is not allowing that.
Well,
Which is, then you have these really nice articles, nice content that you really pray that someone will see it. While the other content, like really, I mean, Andrew Tate and all the things like that, really had a huge reach. We know why, but it's, you cannot compare to these kinds of things, and we have to like really carefully think what we will post, what we will try to pay for. And we usually, what I'm doing, like I put some kind of a nice articles about, like, for example, plants that are near the sea, or something about cosmetics and science of cosmetics. And then you pray if someone reads that, they will also read the article below about, I don't know, how mathematics is influencing democracy.
or you just put it somewhere in the text anyway.
Yeah. Like you mix, like you put like three those light ones about, I don't know, roses, about whatever, and then you put this hard one somewhere in between.
Do you rely completely on this, let's say, passive approach on putting the content out there and waiting for somebody to pick it up and start reading, or do you sometimes do something more proactive, like to confront people who are talking rubbish, basically, and say, okay, these are the facts. Here you can check it. This is not really true what you're saying.
I usually do fact checking. If someone is like, we had the pediatrician pulmonologist in Serbia, Nestorovic, who is against vaccines, and then you debunk his claims, what you can debunk. And there are lots of places. For example, what I mentioned at the beginning of the about alkalizing, about the people who say that people with cancer are actually cause their cancer with their bad thoughts and things like that. So we are doing debunking with fact checking and pre-bunking. Sometimes, yeah, it's hard to confront, like, on the face of the place under their content, because there is a huge risk that they will attack you, they will sue you, and then you have a problem. they are very prone to you cannot even mention you cannot mention the real or the product that you are debunking and saying it's not good, because then you will wait for some kind of they will sue you for that, and then you lose trust, you lose money. So you have to be really careful how to confront these kinds of
A lot of people say that debunking and this kind of, you've already mentioned, like mean communication, direct communication, truths that can be harsh, that they don't tend to work with a lot of people, because we all have biases, we all have pre-decided opinions on things, and we react very negatively to things like that. So a more positive approach, something kinder, something that represents things in a way that can be a bit more palatable to people, tends to create more positive emotional reactions. How do you deal with that on a daily basis? Because I know you will have a strong reaction as an expert and go, oh my God, not again. But then you need to reframe. And as you said, you talk to communication experts and people who know the game. How do you help yourself help others in that way?
I bite my tongue all the time. I'm really I'm on leash. My experts, communication experts are having me on leash. Sometimes there were situations when Dobrila from Prime Communications was pretty running through the comments I made under certain things and erasing it. But now with more experience, I'm trying not to engage. I'm just I'm rolling my eyes and biting my tongue. But then when I get calmer, then I write about it. If you have an argument, write about it or make a reel for Instagram, trying it to be palatable, because you never know who will actually to which follower who will actually see it and read it. It will come eventually to someone, and it will maybe even save someone's life. So you need to produce. The main thing is, okay, we cannot do anything to forbid this kind of irrational, anti-science or pseudo-science content. It will exist. I know that it existed even before I was born. I remember these kinds of things. So it will exist. But what we can do is to fulfill the media space with the right information, and then trying to push, not only to hope that it will get someone, trying to push it actively with certain techniques. If you see that people like podcasts, you make a podcast. Or whatever. For example, last few days we had 3 nice videos about the wild horses in Bosnia, and then people were coming like, oh, okay, horses are nice, and we put just a few words like, okay, horses were domesticated some 5,000 years ago and things like that, and there is a connection between why those horses are wild in Bosnia and certain things, and people will come to see a little horse walking down some mountain, and then below that content there is a content, I don't know, I think it was about HPV vaccine, or the scientists from Netherlands. They will see something like you lure them with this light content, and then they will see something else also. There are tricks, and I think that in this field we also need communication experts, psychologists, science experts, science communication experts to work together.
You need to have an interdisciplinary approach these days. You can't be isolated. I think that's a
Yeah,
big part of the message.
I would. I'm not saying that I'm successful. Like I'm semi-successful. Like I'm not the oh my god influencer, but still with 10K followers on Instagram, 18K, 18,000 on Facebook. It's like certain kind of an influence, but I wouldn't be able to do that if I were alone. If I'm alone, without the communication experts, without the brilliant, a lot of people around me, I wouldn't succeed. So the story about science speaks is not the story of Jelena Kalinić. It's story about support. It's story about hope. It's story about not giving up. It's story about how we can communicate and how we can work together.
I love that message. To clarify to people who might be watching later, and nobody seems to be here with us at the moment because summer has begun and they don't care about us anymore. And
Yes,
we
they
are
are,
very
but they're just shy to ask questions because
they don't know
they
what to
need to
ask.
fact check first whatever they ask if it's correct or not.
We're intimidating them.
Yeah, and we have another problem with fact checking lately. I don't know. Okay, Jelena, how would you say people should handle that part? What is most common these days is that people go to AI bots, be it GPT, whatever, and they ask something, and you talked about charlatans and pseudoscience. Even those bots can be charlatans and hallucinate, and then reference some works that do not even exist. How do
They
you
really.
handle that?
That's exactly that problem is exactly what we tackle the real and me. We have workshops with kids, high school kids, explaining them misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, and how the chatbots are working. That's my part about the AI. And we show them hallucinations. We show them like, are you sure right now after you see this, are you sure enough to use chatbot to write your essay for some subject in school? Because they are really these kinds of things are really making up things, and we are
Yeah, and
teaching
they
them.
seem to just have some facts behind them. They reference some scientific papers, like three, four of
But
them, and
if
when
you
you
try
try
to
to see it,
copy
they see
paste,
they don't exist. But most
they,
people see, oh, this is based on some science, so I want to go into it further. It's true.
the problem is people are using the chatbots in a wrong way, and lots of adults are using it to ask questions or to even to have intimate relationships. Like I so many times that I heard people saying, I never had a conversation with a real human being like I have with the chat GPT. For me, that's like, that hurts me, I would say. I still love to chat with real people, because what you see at the chatbots, whatever you use, is it Claude, is it Chat GPT, is it Gemini, is it Copilot, they are trying to bend themselves. They're trying to be, biased, and to that you will like them to keep on typing with them and spend more time with it. Uh, and yes, they are producing such a amount of, I wouldn't say disinformation. Still, when you ask them about the science things, they are like on the side of the scientific consensus. But if you're putting a question that they don't know, like I put one song, one poem in Cyrillic letters by Serbian poet Vasko Popa, and Chat GPT said it's like epic poetry while it was lyric. Or I asked ChatGPT about. I'm reading the a novel called "Prophet Song" from Irish writer Peter Lynch, and I tried to get, okay, what is it about? It's really kind of a utopia, very relevant today. But it said like, oh, these are like songs of one prophet. But basically, it extrapolated whole content of the novel out of the title. But to use, in my opinion, I hate AI, because I usually don't find them enough useful enough. But I'm still using them to make, for example, PPT presentation out of certain content I produced already with my bare hands and my brain. So what I'm asking ChatGPT, okay, put this into a PPT presentation, but not as a text, but like 1 to 3 bullet points that you find that are like crucial for this part. Because I hate the PPT. You know those PPT presentations when you have a bunch of text there and you don't know how do you follow text or do you follow the speaker. For me, the perfect PPT presentation is like just one word on one slide, or maybe 3. And so that
Perfect
is how
presentation is no presentation at all.
I hate PPT presentation, but ChatGPT is helping me with that, or to plan something, but or give me better titles for something, or give me ideas how to do that. I would like to do this, to organize things. What do you suggest? What would you do if you were that and that? But people are using it as a browser, basically as a browser, which is not. I had a conversation with Professor Frederick Grobel from University of Amsterdam. He's professor of Esperanto and computer science, which is interesting. And he said, like, his students in Amsterdam are using ChatGPT like that. And they are also giving him essays written in ChatGPT. And there are tools to find out if some essay is written by ChatGPT with certain, like, certainty. It's not like 100%. Or what you can also do, when you put the text made by ChatGPT into HTML form, Darko, you will know that, then you have a bunch of useless code in the beginning. Like it's really like long code. You can detect ChatGPT and other chatbots with that, but you just don't have no trick. But what we need is to read more, read books, PDFs, whatever, because with this content produced with I constantly see articles with 3 bullet points with looking like they were produced by the AI. We need opinions. We need long form articles. We need critical thinking. What we need, I had a really good, when I was at the studying literature, we had contemporary art from 60s to nowadays. And what professor was doing to us, she will always give us certain copies or books to read for the next time. And we were discussing it. She was there to like moderate the lecture. What do you think about this? Oh, have you read this part? What do you think about that? We need that more in school. Students to speak up their minds, what they have read. What are you reading? How do you understand it? Not just reproducing it. That's how you will confront AI, and that's how we will not lose our ability to think. But I still think, like, okay, I would ban AI, but I still think that there can be very useful, especially in not large language models. But I see great use to diagnose cancer, to make up new molecules, and things like that. We had a Nobel Prize on that last year. So they are useful because they can really summarize a lot of data. What you can do, the smart way to use it is actually if you have a lot of things to read and you don't know if something is worthy of reading, you can put it in ChatGPT and say, summarize this. And then you see, okay, this is interesting. I will read the whole thing.
These are tools like any others. And as an educator, I would never go into this game of Let's see who is trying to cheat the system, but rather engage people
Mhm.
in critical thinking and using it in different ways and experimenting and finding out what works for them. But I wanted to stress for our viewers that your YouTube and the links that we've shared, they're all for the ex-Yugoslavian region, right? There's no
Yeah,
English
they're all
language content there.
in. There are so few articles on website Nauka Govori are translated in English, but these are the things that I find interesting for the global audience, like the same debunks, same misinformation that is circulating around. But I do not have means or capacity to translate whole website, all the
That's the next step.
content. But what we are like, there is also like a lot of science communicators, science journalists working in English, in French, in German. But what we need, my focus is our like ex-Yugoslavia, because we don't have that many. We have people like Sasha Tsetse, we have Tijana Pradanovic in Serbia. We have people, but not enough. So for us, it's crucial to have more science communicators, to have this content more available for our audience. So that's why I decided to work in our native languages.
We like giving a voice to people that don't normally talk to a global audience, but do you have any advice for people who might be watching, they don't speak our languages and they're still interested
Mhm.
and they want to know what's of good quality out there? Do you perhaps have some recommendations or just like a general guideline how to recognize good content or where to go if they want to read about science in an approachable way?
There's a lot of like in English, especially there are lots of things to recommend. Like there is a podcast and I think Substract, Unbiased Science, then Skeptical Raptor, then there is a Credible Hulk on Facebook. Credible Hulk is great. There was a
I'll remember
Science
that one.
Babe.
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
branding.
Science comedian, I mentioned him already. There is a German Kurz gesagt, but in English. It's like animated. Probably you know that short animated videos about the science. There is like I would say like I really like Jonathan Stia. He's a psychologist, clinical psychologist, and he's really on all his channels like Facebook, Threads, I think Instagram, Twitter, X. He's working on debunking and showing pointing at charlatans. So Jonathan Stia. Yeah, I haven't prepared this one, but there are lots of people to find out there who are doing good job. MMC GIWL from Canada. They have a great content. They are really good in it. I follow them all the time.
Okay, that's quite a few. Thank you.
I remember only Incredible Hulk.
And Science Babe.
It's catchy name, so yeah.
Yeah, it's catchy. That's branding. You need branding. You need to be sassy.
Absolutely. I will show your website once more, but for people watching on LinkedIn, can they connect to you? Do you take conversations to DMs?
Well, if I have a time, I communicate. Sometimes people are writing me questions or right. Sometimes I usually try to be kind and nice and follow back and speak with them. But then I usually do not have that much time. But I'm trying not to offend anyone. Like and for me, it's offensive not to have a time for person without telling it, like I really don't have a time, but I will do my best to answer you or to communicate with you, or not to answer at all. That's really rude. So I think that if I don't do that, if I do not answer back, that means that I probably haven't seen the message, and forgive me for that.
Okay, but people can still try. We can invite them
Yeah.
to ask a question or two, and if they can read
Let's
it and understand it, visit your websites and media.
let's wait
If
for a little
not,
bit.
yeah, some of your recommendations,
Mm-hmm.
and just in general, maybe be curious
Mm-hmm.
and be
Exactly.
careful out there. Ask questions.
We'll wait a little bit more.
I think we can wrap it up here.
Mm-hmm.
We want to thank you for taking the time for us in your
Thank
busy
you. I
schedule.
really enjoyed both of you. Let's stay connected even when this podcast is finished. Please.
We will for
I
sure.
would-
Yes, thank you so much. It was a really interesting conversation, and I like the views how we should actually question everything we hear around us.
Well, sometimes even we see like people who call themselves skeptics questioning the science consensus. So, but it's basically trolling. So even that is not, it's too much. But yeah,
Okay.
we should at least teach kids. But then they will try to scrutinize you, like, and especially if you're talking about from the point of authority as a parent. They will say, "Oh, that's a logical fallacy of argumentum ad authoritatem. You don't have a right to do that. Be careful with that."
We can only hope for that level of critical scrutiny from our children. But yeah,
Yeah, thank you
genuine,
so much.
real questioning, not just
Yeah,
play
not
on
trolling.
words. Yeah.
Then
Thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of your day.
thank you so
And to
much.
everyone watching as well. Take care.
Have a lovely rest of your day.